we can keep our ethics as media personnel, how best we can, amidst, of course, amidst the growing technological advancements, amidst the AIs, amidst all these other things that we have discussed in the last 6 sessions. And so he's a well experienced gentleman to share with us from his wealth of experience, but also from his wealth of knowledge. So then I'll be inviting him in the next 5 minutes to start sharing with us. But for now, I really want to thank you for honoring our invitation and for always coming. And I keep encouraging you to let your friends know that we have officially started, so that we don't leave anybody else behind. And that is the reason why we have always given the first 15 minutes to allow people come in. I know that some of you were reading the news, others were in the newsroom, others were running up and down to catch up internet, etc. So we are really honored for your continuous engagement. I also wish to inform you that on Friday we shall have another session. As we had mentioned on Monday, we shall have another session on Friday. And then, of course, next week on our daily days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So for this week, we're able to have the conversation last week, or rather this week on Monday. This is the second conversation of this week, and we shall have another on Friday. We are coming closer to the end of the we are coming almost to the end of the 8 series on internet safety and artificial intelligence. So we hope that we have been learning. So this is the 6th in the row of 8, so meaning that we are left with 2 sessions, which the 2 sessions will be done on Friday, and then the last one on Monday, where you will receive your certificates for completion of this module. So we still invite you on Friday and then on Monday next week to be able to finish off this. Of course, we have a lot of other leagues that will be happening after this particular module. We shall be having so many other sessions. We shall have sessions on consumer justice. I think those will be 6 other series on consumer justice, which we shall be looking at consumer justice in different sectors, in water, in electricity, in transport, in whatever. We shall be looking at those. Now those ones will be about 8 series, rather 6 series. And then also later on we shall have other series on clean air. It's another media league that we shall be looking at, a series on clean air and how consumers are supposed to deal with that kind of thing in our country. So ladies and gentlemen, you see that we have a big package that we're going to have during the course of all this time. So once we close these 8 sessions, we're going to begin another 6 sessions, and then later we begin another around 3-4 sessions on clean air and consumers. So we hope that these sessions should build your capacity as individuals, as parents, as community members, but also empower you to be able to empower others. So there's a lot of information that, of course, is out there, but few people know about these things. So that's why we keep organizing these sessions, first of all for you to learn as the media personnel, but also to help us communicate this kind of information to the rest of the populace out there. So I really want to appreciate you for you've shown a lot of enthusiasm in ensuring that you attend these sessions, you learn, and I'm happy also to inform you that we've been able to receive a number of articles from many of you. We've been able to see on your LinkedIn accounts. We've been able to follow up on your X spaces. You guys are doing wonders out there, and we wish to see more in print, more on television, more discussions on radio. Kudos to all those who have already started this journey and you're already communicating this kind of information out there. We are really honored by your interest in these aspects. Now it's only 1 minute to our time of starting this session, and I wish to now that we are coming to 50 of us, I think then we should be able to start as we remind other colleagues to join the conversation. So now allow me to welcome Mr. Wakabi Michael. who is going to share with us extensively on the subject of the day. He will be reflecting with us on safer internet, basically looking at ethical journalism and responsible reporting on safer internet, but also for safer internet. So join me, colleagues, put our hands together, put our thumbs up, and welcome our elder, our senior colleague who is in the house now. Over to you, Mr. Wakabi. And please, as we have always done, let us give him thumbs up, let us give him flowers, let us welcome him. Thank you so much, and over to you, Mr. Wakabi, to share with us.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for that very warm introduction and welcome to this session. Actually, I was a bit surprised when Henry reached out to me asking me to make this presentation, because by my age, I'm almost by default analog. But then I considered that, well, maybe given my experience, I might have a few nuggets to share with my colleagues in the early phases of their practice of early and mid-career journalists. So thank you. This presentation is structured around 5 parts. We shall have an introduction on the safer internet concept. Then we shall look at the ethical challenges in digital journalism. We shall delve into responsible reporting principles. And then, brought through practical newsroom actions to ensure that we improve the safety of our practice online. And then we shall conclude with the question and answer. I hope I'll be able to stick into the 20 minutes that have been allocated to me. But in case I spill over, please, I request you to be patient. I want us to reflect on the fact as we enter into this. I want us to reflect on a fact that is salient today. The fact that the internet has amplified journalism's reach. We have reached much further. Our footprint is global now, thanks to the internet. And so we are capable.
Mr. Wakabi,
we are capable.
Mr. Wakabi?
Yes, please.
Do you have a PowerPoint so that I allow you to share, or you have it?
No, you guys do the PowerPoint. I've structured it in the way the slide should be.
Okay.
But
okay, cool. No worries. You can go on, please. No worries.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that just as the internet has amplified the reach of journalism, it has also amplified the consequences of getting it wrong. When we make a mistake, the impact is not just local, it's global. It impacts far more people than when compared to the days of analog media. So it's both a blessing, but it has potential pitfalls that we need to look out for all the time in our practice. In our time, we grew up hearing of what was called the Radio Katwe. I don't know whether many in my audience are familiar with Radio Katwe, but Radio Katwe is the equivalent today of unverified information that circulates within society. In the old days, that would be by word of mouth. Today, the very tools that enable them to reach far are also accessible to the average person in society. And so Radio Katwe or fake news or false narratives have gained much more prominence in our conversations. So the internet has really transformed journalism, perhaps much more than any other development since the invention of the printing press by elders more than 500 years ago. It has also democratized access to the means of dissemination and access to information. And this has blurred the lines between professional journalists and citizen journalists, or the radio quatre, or radio trottoir in French, narrator. Today, news travels almost globally within seconds. Whatever you put online will be accessible to the global audience within seconds. This has created a situation where every journalist and the citizen is also a digital publisher. Audiences today participate in news production and distribution pretty much as the professional journalist. So this has created a situation where false information tends to travel much faster, travel and spread much faster than verified facts. In this situation, online reporting can either strengthen or undermine the credibility of journalism and digital safety. As journalists, we are no longer just reporting on the internet, we are simultaneously shaping it. In this environment, what distinguishes the professional journalist from the average actor on the internet is ethical practice. Briefly, the 4 pillars of ethical practice in digital journalism, as I perceive them, don't differ much from the basic principles of journalism. But for the record, accuracy is paramount. It's important to verify whatever you write before publishing. We also need to be more accountable to our audiences and ourselves and our profession by correcting errors at the earliest opportunity and transparently. And then we also need to respect privacy, respect individuals and their personal data, because the net gives us access to a lot of information about people, but we need to distinguish between what is necessary for public consumption in our stories and what is personal and needs to be protected. And then in terms of safety for everybody, for both you as an originator of content and the potential victims of the consequences of your stories, you need to always have in mind the real world consequences of what you're going to publish online. So we have been talking about safer internet, but what is a safer internet? In simple terms, a safer internet is a digital environment where information is accurate and trustworthy. Users are protected from harm. Privacy and dignity are respected. Vulnerable individuals or groups are safeguarded. Digital rights are protected within the law. And technology serves society in a responsible manner. As journalists, we play a critical role in advancing all these goals. And our role in the digital age goes beyond traditional reporting. The modern journalist is an information gatekeeper, he or she is a fact checker. They are digital educators, defenders of the public interest, and guardians against misinformation. They are also protectors of the vulnerable in our communities. So every story published online can influence public behavior, perception, and safety, depending on the way we frame it. If we opt for sensationalism, if we opt to rush and amplify unverified claims, we are not only doing a disservice to society, we are also doing a disservice to ourselves as professionals, because we are undermining trust in our work. Uh, the one thing that we deal with today, be it the individual journalist or mainline newsrooms, is the competition that these digital tools have created and the pressure of speed, the rush, publish it fast. So this has created a very, very intense competition in real time, but it carries risks. The risks of publishing unverified claims, sharing manipulated images, reporting rumors as facts, relying excessively on social media sources. Every time on the WhatsApp groups I'm on, I'm always getting the stories from online platforms. And you notice that, some of these have simply been picked from what somebody has shared on the group. And the guys are quickly creating narratives. There is nothing, no additional information in terms of sourcing or verification beyond what has been posted online, and they've created a story out of it. This may, generate clicks and all that, but you need to think about that situation where whatever you're relying on is wrong. Who will bear the consequences? It will be you as a writer or publisher. Person that have been to court 2 times on cases that were filed against my publisher and me long before the advent of online publishing. And I will tell you, the courtroom experience is not pleasant in any way. Even when you have your facts, it's a very intimidating and sobering encounter between journalists and justice. And I was lucky that, I got off the hook because I had my facts, I had covered all the angles. But looking at what I often say on social media, I just pray and thank God that, we are not yet a very litigant society. Otherwise, many of us would be in very deep trouble. So the principle in this situation is simple. You are better off getting it right than being the first to hit the publish button. The credibility that you lose in seconds will take you years to rebuild. And it won't be just about you as an individual. It will shape the entire perception of society about us as a profession. And what distinguishes us from, what distinguishes us from all this noise online is that we are bound by a code, we are professional, and that's why people, still take the time to try to verify whatever they have heard through our platforms, which they expect to operate on a higher standard of credibility. I've hinted on false information for alternatives, but what's the difference between misinformation and disinformation? These are 2 terms that, are very common. Somebody will come and say, this is you see many documents flagged fake. And sometimes in statements, rebuttals, whatever has been published is branded misinformation or disinformation. But what's the difference between these 2 terms? Misinformation differs from disinformation because while the content may not be true or accurate, it is not shared with malicious intent. It's not intended to deceive. It's just an innocent error of fact. While disinformation is false information that is deliberately created to mislead its consumers. Examples of this include fake news websites, deepfake videos, altered photographs and other graphic presentations, fabricated narratives or quotes, and coordinated propaganda campaigns. I'm sure we have all experienced this around here on a regular basis. In all this, understand how this works, how the information that we generate runs around and all that, how false narratives gain mileage. We also need to interest ourselves in this new thing called algorithms. We have all heard about algorithms. During the witch election in Kenya, the late Raila Odinga said that an algorithm had been introduced into the EC result challenge system to tilt the election results in favor of his competitor. But what are algorithms? Simply put, an algorithm is a set of rules that a computer follows to make decisions, organize information, or recommend content. So if you punch in a query, this algorithm that quickly works out what you really want, and it arranges the information, it brings out the search results in an order of priority and importance. Now, for journalists, understanding the algorithms is essential because they influence what information reaches the public and how fast it spreads and who gets to see it. Social media algorithms not just tend, but they prioritize engagement over accuracy. They look at emotion. They look at controversy. They look at the potential of a particular post going viral. So they are not concerned about accuracy or context or the public interest. And this is the very reason why we should be careful about allowing trending content to influence our editorial judgment. We should never run away from asking the basic questions about any story that might be trending or issue that might be trending in the public domain. Personally, I struggle with understanding deep fakes and the AI-generated content. It's a generational issue. I've struggled and I've accepted I don't fully understand it. But what I've done has been to, line up a few colleagues who are serving in this area that I always reference anything I have doubts about, put my interest that yes, what I'm doing within is accurate. So artificial intelligence can now generate fake voices, fake videos, fake images, fabricated documents. In all this, the best practice for journalists is to go back to the protocols of verification. Try to find the original sources. If you're technologically savvy, try to do reverse image searches to see whether the images that you're seeing actually exist in the real world. Seek independent corroboration and maintain a healthy degree of doubt about whatever you see. Verification in this age is more important than ever before. So ethical reporting for a safer internet, above all, requires us to ask ourselves the old questions. Is it true? Is it verified? Is it complete? Is context provided? I've just been reading the story online here, which was derived from a post by General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the Chief of Defense Forces. And said that Mohoz reveals plans after he leaves the CDF office. And reading it, yes, there was such a post, but there is no effort to go beyond that post to verify. And most importantly, what are Moses' plans after his CDF posting? He wants to lead the Israeli army, according to the story. And now, I ask myself, what value such a narrative really adds to the person who consumes, right? Apart from maybe doubting the sanity of a highly decorated military official. So before publishing, we need to verify the basic things, the names, the sources, locations, dates, the pictures, especially when we are dealing with the social media content. If we want to know, to get on to, if we are trying to use social media content as a source for stories, we should, while doing that, we should simply avoid the temptation to rush to join the bandwagon, because there are so many pitfalls in that approach. Rather, you're better off. You don't lose anything, by the way, even by taking a data approach to the same content, because you come with more context than these stories, initial stories are initially offering. And your consumers will trust you and see you as a more credible source of information, because you are placing the news into proper context with a proper commentary, verification, and all that. The other aspect of safe internet is minimizing the potential harm our stories can cause. The difference between the traditional media and the internet is the permanence. Anything that you put online, unlike print newspapers, is likely to remain accessible indefinitely. This is especially true of social media platforms. I mean, I've got so many dead colleagues whose accounts on Facebook and other platforms are still active. You think that the guys are still alive. So you have to keep that in mind, that whatever you're putting out, unless you have the opportunity to, retract it, kill the link, is likely to be available and accessible indefinitely, well beyond your time on Earth. So you need to ask yourself simple questions again. Will this publication expose someone to risk or danger? Could this information lead to somebody getting harassed? Are vulnerable individuals in this story adequately protected? Does the public interest outweigh the potential harm? Because there's no point in publishing a story that may hurt people unless there is really an overriding reason for the public to have this information. Typically, in my days in the newsroom, I remember we used to publish on about 2 to 3% of the information that came into our position. And this was not because the information we were getting was not true, but because we do ask ourselves whether it was really important to that public. You can say that that's subjective judgment, but ethical journalism requires us, make those considerations. So the key lesson here is that the internet never forgets. I mean, you have been seeing online, people bring up images of prominent people today and what they look like 20, 30 years ago and all that. That's the internet. It never forgets. And it will treat your stories the same way, whether they are true or false. So protecting the individuals takes us into the need to protect privacy and the personal data. Responsible digital reporting requires us to avoid publishing personal phone numbers, home addresses, ID documents, other sensitive information, children's identifiable data. To make this judgment call, it's always important to ask whether the public needs the information about that you're about to put out about these people. Because you may be able to access information, but does that mean that the public need that information? That's the judgment call you have to make in these situations. Because accessibility, the fact that you can access information does not mean that that information you get is publishable. It's not always the case. Responsible reporting on children requires us to first obtain informed consent, avoid unnecessary identification, protect victims of abuse, either by blurring their images, at least concealing their real identities so that they not become objects of stigma. You need to really think about the long-term consequences and prioritize the welfare of the child over the curiosity of your audiences. A digital footprint created today may affect a child for decades. And that also goes to ethical reporting on online abuse. We need to cover or report on the harm without amplifying it. For instance, if you're reporting on cyberbullying, what aspects can we report on for public consumption? And what should we retain for ourselves? The challenge is that sometimes, if you're not careful, when you report on cyberbullying or even digital fraud and all that, hate speech, online harassment, digital exploitation, you may again amplify the manner in which you do that could amplify and maybe inspire more people to actually join the bandwagon. So we should avoid reproducing abusive content. I mean, I always see posts by TikTok videos by some familiar figures here who use very, very abusive language. And generally speak it and reproduce it on their platforms. That's really bad. You are amplifying the harm associated with that content. You are giving it mileage. So we should avoid reproducing abusive content unnecessarily, unless it's absolutely necessary. We should avoid naming the victims without their consent. And we should not publish harmful images of victims of abuse. To do this, we need to focus on the context of the events and the facts surrounding the story we are reporting on. It's important to bring this context for balance so that the average person can arrive at informed conclusions about the story or events that you're reporting about. We need to be conscious of the impact impact has two faces: impact on the public. What impact is this story likely to have on the public? And then we need to consider solutions journalism, where rather than focusing on the problem itself, we also delve into the possible solutions to that situation. And then above all, we need to be accountable for our content. You must own the content and feel that the outcome, be it glory or criticism, solely rests on your head. We also have distractions. The digital age has brought this new thing called cybercrime. Now, reporting of cybercrime, you could be reporting. I was just reading the story about some worker in a local bank who has been convicted in absentia to a jail term of 12 months. And this was because they used their position to transfer money from a customer's account to an accomplice's account, 52 million that they stole. Now, in reporting on such a story, you are required to explain the risks associated with cybercrime in general, its strengths and consequences, and preventive measures, without adding information that could enable criminal activity. If you go into details, a lot of details of how this was done, there could be somebody that could be reading your story and say, oh, okay, so if I did this, I could also get in and make some quick money. So there, your reporting is enabling rather than simply informing about the risks of cybercrime. So the goal should be creating public awareness about cybercrime without, again, becoming instructors into how to do it. So in reporting on digital security and privacy, we need to help citizens navigate the digital world. And you can contribute to this by reporting on data breaches, online scams, consumer protection initiatives, digital rights, privacy legislation, cybersecurity awareness. That's the kind of journalism that empowers citizens to make informed decisions about the engagement with the internet. Now, sometimes in our practice, as I mentioned a little while ago, we get content from online. Let's say a WhatsApp group, somebody shares a video, somebody shares a photograph, and the temptation, if I'm doing a story, even a story that may not be connected with this particular, whatever this person has posted, you may be tempted to want to use that image or video. But you have to remember that social media is not a free archive. The rules that govern the copyright, creators' rights, and all that apply. So, first, after verifying authenticity, you need to try to seek permission from the owner of that content before you use it. Also consider the safety implications, the risks that will be associated with you using or amplifying that content. You also need to respect the dignity and the privacy of the people or characters in that content. so that they don't become victims of your publishing. So the simple thing to remember is that just because the content is available in the public, on a public platform, it does not mean that it is ethically free for you to use. You still need to go back to your ethics of journalism and judge your next steps based on what professional ethics dictate in that situation. And so the communications also that we need to look at in this era of diversity, inclusion, and all that. You have to ask yourself whose voices you're amplifying. Are you amplifying the stereotypes? Are you amplifying discrimination? Have you included diverse perspectives in your narrative or story? Have you protected marginalized or vulnerable marginalized communities or vulnerable individuals? Have you recognized that there is also inequality? There are some people who may be victims of online content without them even having access to the internet. They're innocent victims. You're talking about them, but they're not even aware that you're talking about them. And also to recognize that some groups may be prone to disproportionate online abuse and threats than others. These are realities we have to deal with. So, I mean, we have stereotypes about certain cultures and all that. So if there was if there was a violent incident, let's say in Kabale, where one person loses their life, is this necessary for you to go into to bring up the stereotype that Bachiga are known to be short-tempered, blah 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 blah? Those are the kind of things to avoid. So responsible journalism, as I come close to the end, responsible journalism begins with responsible personal or newsroom culture. And that is adhering to verification protocols, digital security policies. If you're in a newsroom, this will probably be there. If you are a lone ranger, then you should take trouble, use the same tool, the internet, to inform and educate yourself about the digital security principles and policies, fact-checking procedures, ethical AI guidelines, data protection rules and standards, and the online harassment response plans. Sometimes we also as journalists, become victims of online harassment, where people that are not happy with their content actually turn the guns on you. So you must have a plan, first of all, how to protect your own mental health, if you're in the newsroom, or even how to protect your personal security. Sometimes things get out of hand and they're really bad. Yeah. So the questions every journalist should ask, I repeat this again because it's the core of ethical journalism. The question that every journalist should ask, or the key questions on an ethical reporting checklist are, before publishing, ask yourself if it is accurate, if it is verified, if it is fair, if it is necessary, if it could cause potential harm to certain individuals, if you have respected the privacy of the actors involved in your story, if it serves the public interest, and whether it could contribute to a safer internet. If any answer to any of those questions raises questions in your mind, that's the time for you to pause and rethink, go back and look at your story again, and adjust accordingly. So in journalism, in conclusion, journalism can be a force for digital trust. Because the internet was invented by technology companies, and then the governments took over regulation, its future will not be shaped by only these parties. It will also be shaped by ethical journalists. So we need to always remember that every accurate story combats misinformation. Every ethical decision protects dignity, human dignity. Every responsible story strengthens credibility and public trust in us and our journalism. Therefore, a safer internet is not created by technology alone. It is also created by the responsible choices we make every day in informing the public. You might want to reflect on some of these recent real-life situations. All of you remember COVID and the explosion of information around it, and how verification became a very important public health issue. Our role during journalism, because there was a lot of information from multiple sources that, it became very difficult. Sometimes it became very difficult to sort, to contextualize it properly, and to sort truth, what was true and what was false. And that's now happening even with Ebola. Even with Ebola, that's happening. I realized that only a few days ago when I was having a conversation with my sister from up country. And after discussing, we were telling about the Ebola, then she asked me, but is Ebola really there? Or is it just being created by? And it occurred to me that, this perception has been created by social media. And sometimes on social media, we have people, prominent figures in society, respected people, unfortunately driving false narratives. And because they are prominent, we also jump onto reporting what they have said without proper contextualization, because we know it's going to attract hits. It's going to generate hits. But it's coming at a very high price, because if an MP or a prominent opposition politician makes a statement, people look at him as a credible, the common man looks at him as a credible figure. He's important, he's an important member in society. And unfortunately, in our country, false narrative by those people are not even challenged by the authorities. They will come for you, the reporter, but they leave the originator untouched. And in the mind of the average member of the public, what the man has said is true. If they're harassing you, to him they're harassing you because you have reported a truth that contradicts that contradicts official narratives. And we end up in a situation where the government is doing its best, or state institutions are doing their best to combat a situation that affects all of us. But now we are giving the mileage to false narratives that undermine public trust in official sources of information. This has also happened in elections. You have seen all the deepfake videos and the false narratives during the election and conflicts, like what is going on in the Middle East now. We have also had the cases where media houses or platforms have had to remove stories that they have published or retract them because they were incorrect in some aspects. Either we misidentified individuals, misattributed, and all that. And then reporting on cybercrime and online scams without inadvertently teaching audiences how to commit the very crimes we are reporting about. That needs, really be top of mind whenever we encounter. This is sometimes exciting stories, exciting but potentially harmful stories. And then we also need to remind ourselves of the ethical dilemmas surrounding the use of social media posts, screenshots, and user-generated content. So it all goes back to where we started, on the 4 pillars of ethical digital journalism. Accuracy, verify before publishing. Accountability, correct errors at earliest opportunity, and transparency. Privacy, respect the dignity of individuals and personal data. Safety, consider the real-world consequences of your stories. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Very interesting stuff. Colleagues, we need to give him thumbs up. We need to give him flowers. We need to thank him for his kindness in sharing information with us. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Dennis. I'm still waiting for more hands. Thank you, Melania. Thank you. I'm still waiting and see who else has a thumbs up. Okay. Thank you, David. Christopher. Okay, thank you all for paying attention. I saw most of you are very, very attentive, and I want to really thank you, Michael, for sharing with us very critical issues. I love the conclusion, a summary of everything: accuracy, accountability, transparency, privacy, safety, when you are dealing with stories. But I think quite a lot of stuff has really been told to us around personal data protection, verification of information, issues of measure. How is this story going to cause trouble to those who are going to read it or those who are going to listen to it? Issues of digital rights, issues of fact checking. I noted issues around pressure. These days we are publishing because of pressure, the speed at which we are doing things, the rush to publish stories, and maybe before we can do a double check of things, manipulated images, and publishing rumors. He reminds us about how every story you're actually accountable for it because your name exists on every publication you're getting. And then very critical aspects of get it right than getting it finished. As long as it's not right, even if you got it finished, you land you into trouble. Issues of false information and false narratives. I noted issues around misinformation and disinformation, fabricated narratives, protocols of verification, especially around our newsrooms. How do we make sure that we follow critically the protocols of verification? And very interestingly, I fell in love with the old question. We need to keep asking the old questions. Is it true? Is it verified? Is it there? Anyway. And other questions that kept coming in. Will this expose someone to risk of danger? Are vulnerable individuals protected? Does the public, is the story versus the public interest? I mean, quite a lot of interesting stuff that Michael has shared with us. But also very critical, I noted aspects of solution journalism. How do we make sure that we also start reporting on solution journalism, accountable journalism, journalism that empowers the citizens, ethical newsroom culture, ethical dilemmas, etc. I really want to commend Michael for sharing very extensively with us. I'm really humbled by your sharing. Now, colleagues, as we've always as we've always done, I can see the messages. I can see appreciations in the chat. Now it is going to be our time to raise any questions, if any, but also, as we've always done, we want also to listen to personal experiences. Have you had any experiences as a journalist where your story was maybe questioned, or whether it was restricted from the media space, even after publication? Do you have an experience around, having challenges with accessing information, and so you ended up relying on hearsay, or rumors, or something? This is now the time when we need to share our experiences, our questions, our concerns, etc. So, as a matter of fact, as usual, put up your hand. I'll be able to see you and then give you the microphone. Yes, I can see Christopher. Your hand is up. Kindly proceed with your question. Henry, I hope colleagues are able to unmute themselves. I'm not very sure if we have to unmute them from this side. Christopher, try to unmute, and I see if it is possible for you.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I've been following very closely. He really raises very important issues that normally affect our journalism, especially in the advent of AI. At least I've been in the industry for at least now like 15 years, and I can tell you that point you just repeated, Bernard, is very important to ask. Someone used to say to ask the dumb question. People go to the field, they pick information, and at times they reach home and they even don't know the name of the person who said the thing. That's when you see someone calling, but what was the name of the other person? Because they've not even taken an initiative to reach out. My editor would say, there is no harm in reaching the source and hand them a notebook and say, kindly write your name and your position. Because there is a GUMA of GUMA and a GUMA of GUMMAH, and I really find his presentation very, very enriching, reminding us to always go back to the very basics. So to me, of course, there have been instances where you report, and after you've reported, you call a major general, you put a lieutenant colonel, you've mixed up titles. But again, it goes back. The only solution is going to be in cross-checking and confirming that not every document that has State House on the left top corner of it is from State House. You've seen very many people are misusing, they are forging a lot of documents with AI, with video retouching technologies. And my wish is always, like he said, to always really do the basics. Can you really ask yourself, if a communication is to come from State House, who should make it? Is it a random social media X account, or it should be uploaded somewhere? So to me, my editor, the final thing I used to say, that if perfection is an illusion, but he used to state it that if perfection be an illusion, then highest endeavor must be a perfect substitute. So that was Richard Kavuma at Observer. He always recommended this, one of the best journalists we can ever meet. So to me, those are my views, Bernard, but I really find the training and the presentation very enriching. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you, Chris. Well, Christopher gives us, of course, more insights from his experience, and also giving more information around what Michael has been sharing. Let me see if there is any other. Solomon, King Solomon, kindly go on. Solomon, you should be able to speak. Solomon, are you able to unmute, please?
Hello, I hope I can be heard right now.
Yes, please.
First things first, thank you for the webinar, because we are getting a lot of insights that are helping us to be better at the good work we are giving to the country. I want to thank Mr. Michael for the discussion and the presentation he has brought to us. But also, my concern would be the fact that we are having all this disinformation and misinformation moving around, even though most of us are not partaking in such. It is worrying that UCC has not really come out to put maybe a communication about it, or like put a penalty about it, because I believe if there was a penalty to penalize maybe an author of a given piece of content, maybe a blog or a story that is deemed misinformation or disinformation, whatever the caliber would be, I think that would also cut on the number of AI generated content that is meant to misinform or disinform the general public. And I also want to thank fellow people in media who are trying the very best to always first verify any information that they have got. They first reach out, or even reach out to the contacts or the sources to confirm a piece that has been gotten. But other than that, I think my worry is that we have no penalties that are governing on what kind of information, or are penalizing misinformation and disinformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. You bring in another concept around the law and Data Misuse Act, or maybe the Communication Related Act. We intend that before the 8 sessions are done, we should have a session around the law and the legal implications and where are those laws, and so that you are wholesome. So that we don't assume that maybe the law is not there and yet it's there, but maybe we don't know the law. So we shall be glad to have that conversation come on Friday, so that we can see what are the provisions of the law. I want to appreciate the fact that, of course, UCC, we can always reach out to them, and some of their colleagues are here. I think this is a very honest conversation that we can always have. I can see a number of other questions in the chat. One is asking about, let me just go to Goretti. Let me just see that message from Goretti, I think. Okay, how does the newsroom or the media house, how does the newsroom or media house control a reporter who, after being sent to the field and is facilitated by the media house via radio, then first publishes stories or information on personal social media accounts instead of those for the organization they work for? Well, that is another exciting thing that I had not imagined, meaning that there are some media personnel who are sent by the media house to go to the field, pick information, and then they first write on their media platforms before they can actually report to the media house. Well, Mr. Wakabi will provide us the answer to that. I hope, Mr. Wakabi, you were able to hear that question.
Yes,
before
I
can
did.
read another, so that you can respond to 2 of them at a go. There's another question here about how about those media houses like radios, which get news stories from their own news bulletin from other medias like websites. I think there are those media houses that actually pick news from other websites. So she's asking how that is supposed to be handled. I think some of the examples are to do with the radio network, Uganda Radio Network, I think. How do we deal with those kind of stories? Let me see if. Okay, I think these are some of the questions in the chat that Mr. Wakabi could respond to, in addition to the comments from the other colleague, if I can get another bit of the question. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Bernard. And thank you, Christopher, Solomon, Goretti, and the others who have joined the discussion. The Christopher basically added the context in my presentation. I thank him for that. Those were very, very useful insights that you added. Thank you. Now, Solomon is concerned about enforcement. He thinks that, regulation is lax. But I will tell you that regulation is not lax. Actually, about 20 years ago, when I was still running the Eastern Africa Media Institute, we produced a compendium. We did research and did a compendium of the media laws that affect or that could impact or regulate freedom of expression and journalism in one way or another. And we came up with, I won't say it was an exhaustive list, but we were able to come up with 200 separate pieces of legislation that we are potentially falling afoul of every day in our practice. So the law here is actually, we operate in a legal landmine, and that's why it's important for us to try to interest ourselves in reading all these laws. Now the UCC, the Uganda Communication Commission, has been empowered. It has almost all-encompassing powers to regulate communication in this country. So you need to familiarize yourself with the UCC Act and all the laws that have been produced, the Broadcasting Act, blah, 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 the Journalism and the Media Statute of 1990. There are so many. So I would say that there's a shortage of laws, but rather maybe enforcement is a challenge. And I think the other principle, apart from ethical considerations, yes, the UCC can come in when you have breached ethical guidelines. But in some cases, there must be a complainant, as we have seen recently. Who is our colleague, the other journalist, the other guy who had an online channel who was on remand for a very, very, very long time before the case was resolved recently. So the tools are there. The tools are there, and as journalists, it's important for us to actually also interest ourselves in looking at what the law says. One, just to avoid falling afoul, but also in the interest of, playing by the rules, so that, because rules are, the assumption of the rules that they are designed to protect all of us. So when we follow them, the assumption is that, we shall all be safe. So I encourage every journalist or even every citizen to try to get into themselves in familiarize themselves with these rules which are available online anyway. So those data bundles, instead of going for TikTok videos, maybe you could just log into UCC and familiarize yourself with all these regulations. Then Gorete asked about, a journalist who is assigned by a media house, goes to the field, gets a story, but they first post it on their social media handles before filing for the media house. I would say that the different media houses have different policies about social media and how reporters should use their content on social media. So that's down to the practices of individual media houses. If they think it enhances their brand, this falls back to the digital first policy, which has been adopted by all media houses. So maybe you may find that this journalist has a bigger following, a very big following, or a bigger following than the media house. In that case, when they post the content, the media house could benefit. It would benefit, and they may be inclined to follow the main story later on the official platform. Then there was a question about media houses that depend or that use content from other media houses to write their stories. That's not new. I mean, these days news agencies are not as prominent as they used to be in the early days. Reuters, AFP, Associated Press in the US. But these were platforms that generated licensable content. So they do invest the resources in making sure that they cover a large part of the world. The key population centers of action in finance, economics, politics, they do have reporters. Even in Uganda, we have correspondents for Reuters, AFP, American Press, DW. Now, these guys, this is intended to actually help those media houses that may not have the resources to deploy reporters to these places. So for a small fee, you are allowed to use that content. But the rule is attribution. In fact, every time you see, at least in the print, whenever you see those stories, it will be clear that this story is by Reuters, not us. But that aside, I also do that sometimes, but I attribute. Ideally, you should seek consent from the organizers that, you know, I've seen your story here, and I'd like to use it in this way. Most of the time, they will allow you with the rule that one, you not distort the content, the message, and two, you credit them, you acknowledge that they are the source of your information. That's how it works. If you just pick the information and run it and call it your own, now you have gone into plagiarism. That's plagiarism. There are no two ways about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael, for responding to the queries and the questions. I see more questions in the chat. I can't see the raised. Let me see if there are any persons raising their hands. Okay, but I can see more questions. Recently, there was a woman who was complaining of a certain journalist of a national media house, saying that their reporter asked her for an interview, but she told him that she does not want to appear on TV, and the guy agreed with no time. People were telling her that they saw her on television talking about sex work. So she wanted to sue the journalist and the media house. I think there have been common stories where people do not consent to, are willing to give you the information, but they wanted to keep it blinding. But sometimes we get excited, and I think we publish the information. And when those people hear about it, they get mad and they can be able to sue us. I think that is a conversation that Goretti is trying to share with us. Let me just see, there was another request by one of our colleagues who says, well, he's encouraging us to really take precaution about humanity for people from whom we get the stories. I think that is something very interesting. Let me see. Rogers, simple advice to my fellow journalists. We should mind a lot about humanity and minimizing harm, especially about children and unaccustomed to public. All right, thank you. Thank you guys for your active participation. I see quite a lot of messages in the chat. Of course, I'm not able to read all of them. And someone is sharing a story from NTV saying that is CDF the untouchable lawbreaker. I mean, I don't know, but something like that in the chat. Well, we can visit the chat and pick more conversations in there. Let me know if there is anybody else who has their hand up before we can come to a close of this session. Someone says objectivity and accuracy is key. Exactly, it's very key. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, colleagues, in case you have any other submissions and you would want a microphone, please put up your hand and I can be able to give you the microphone. And in case you don't have, social media is now awash of misinformation, yes, and so that means, of course, as journalists, we need to do verification before we can publish anything. Okay. All right, so now I see that all of us have understood the subject matter. We have appreciated the subject matter. We don't have any further questions. Though I see that we have a lot of discourse in the chat, which is a very good thing. I am now going to ask my colleague that consent to share a registration link. Share or Ronette, kindly share the registration link. Okay, Henry has shared the registration link in there. Kindly let us do the honors as usual. Let us pick the link and register participation in this engagement. And of course, now I will also invite Mr. Chimera to give us the closing remarks, and also continue to appreciate our facilitator of the day for his kindness and for sharing with us this information. Is boosting us. Of course, I want to make announcements quickly. I hope that each one of us has been sorted for last Monday. I hope that each one of you has probably received their resources. If not, please reach out to Asha. Secondly, on Friday, we are meeting at the same time, 2 o'clock. Please don't miss, and also mobilize other colleagues who can join the conversation on Friday. Thirdly, on Monday next week, we shall be concluding our series, the 8th series on internet safety, and we shall be awarding certificates to those who have been attending. So please also join in so that we can have certificates, so we can come to a close of this whole conversation. Now, the way we're going to do the Monday session, we're not going to have presentations, but we shall have experience sharing from you guys. So you are the presenters, and we intend to say that every region will have their issues presented by your coordinators, but also we shall have a lot of time for members to be able to openly share from the 8 sessions that we would have had. Share with us your experience, whether you've learned something. We just want to listen in to you guys. Is new that you've learned? What is it that you're going to execute that you've not been executing? So it's more or less of the evaluation of all these sessions, but also we shall have conversations by the UCC colleagues who have been facilitating these, been supporting us to have these sessions. They'll be awarding us those certificates. That's what is going to happen on Monday. And please, we request all of you to be there so that you don't miss out. For any one of you who has written their articles, or you have your radio presentations and you'd love to share with us, kindly share with us those pieces of work so that we can start looking out for the best journalists around this subject, and then we can be able to award the best region and the best individuals who have been writing articles, who have been speaking about the subject matter. So please keep them flowing, send them to your coordinators, they'll come through to Asha, and then we can analyze them so that by end of this month, we can award those who would have documented more, or who would have had more sessions on this subject matter on the internet. So those are the quick announcements for today. Register so that Melania can work on your resources. For those perhaps who haven't received, I will follow up with the team to see. As long as you registered, you should be able to receive your resources for data. With those so many remarks from me, I want to now welcome my senior, Henry Chimera, to give us closing remarks, but also to give us the honors and close the event. Thank you so much, and over to you, Henry.
Thank you very much, Bernard. But I would like to thank our colleague and our facilitator today, Mr. Michael Wakali. We're very honored to have you. All our partners from UCC, our partners from the Sizzling Events Limited, we thank you very much for teaming us with Consent. And I would like to thank all of you. Over 120 have registered, and a few have managed to join in, but we really appreciate. We thank you for taking on the mantle of being thirsty for knowledge, and also using the knowledge that we share with you. And you you pass it on to the others so that they can do their own learning. So, ladies and gentlemen, my college has led you through the process. There are many products that we are coming up with, which products are going to be very key for you to enrich and empower you to continuously sensitize the communities that you are in. And this is the contribution that you will be making to improve the livelihood of the consumers in Uganda, to make them more productive, improve their livelihood, and also do savings so that they can progress in a number of aspects. Why am I bringing in the saving? When you lead a good life, a healthy and responsible life, you hardly fall sick. You hardly lose resources. So if you have enough resources, as a journalist, you are reporting ethically and you empower the communities you work in and report to, then you keep healthy, they keep healthy. You are a market that receives quality produce, quality services. So you hardly fall sick. You have enough resources to feed and save, also to invest. So we might look at these issues from a safer internet perspective, but like we said earlier, the global world is digitalized. Once you do promote safer internet, you are promoting safer economic activities, you are promoting a responsible digital environmental ecosystem, which will facilitate and empower and bring about productivity. So, ladies and gentlemen, your products, the content that you develop out of these is very key, and it is something that you need to utilize, share it, empower more people. I've seen some already making dual dialogues on their on stations. We've liked the videos. Please get them from the local language or put on subtitles to enable other people get to know what you have put in the local language. Some of the languages are musical, and I say, oh, wow, are they rapping or what? And then I'm told, no, the translation is all about digital safety. It is all about data protection. It is all about responsible media. A responsible media develops its society it lives in. So I would like to thank you all. Bring in those products, use the content to sensitize others. We are greatly honored to have you as our partners, the Media League family, and we would love to continue being with you. With that, I look forward to being with you on Friday, and I also look forward to being with you on Monday as we close the 8th series. And those of you who are not in Mbale, we have seen your colleagues that are on the Media League, some of them, not all of them. We were here doing a noble cause with regards to food safety. So we had to chip out and come in. And so I would like also to end by thanking all my colleagues at Consent for continuously boosting and driving and supporting and working tirelessly to make this a success. So thank you very much. We all call you as our partners, and I would say that partners deliver life and life delivers partners. So thank you very much. Let's continue sustaining and rebuilding ourselves to deliver a sustainable society we live in. Thank you. See you on Friday. Bernard, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, colleagues. I am very sure that now each one of you has registered in the chat, rather on the link. I am also sure now that we have all the information we needed. Number 3, someone is asking for the presentation. As we've always shared the presentation, again, to come through your regional groups. As soon as Michael shares it, we shall share it with you so that you can keep making reference to it. Okay, may I ask, registration is the filling of the link. Please, we shared the link as we've already shared, just for you to click on the link and then you're able to register. Owen, you should be able to just click on that link and it will take you to registration, and you'll see a notification that you've actually registered. Okay, and then who else is asking what? I saw a hand again from our colleague. I think you need to deal with what is his name? His hand is now down. Methodius, he always fails to register. Please with him as you've always done, so that we don't keep people for long on the call. Let me see. Well, someone is saying they've not received their money. I think we've already sent money to 102 people, so I don't know. We shall double check. So colleagues, allow us to end at this now, and thank you for being around, and let us keep the momentum on Friday and on Monday next week. Thank you so much, and kindly have a great evening, and we catch up again on Friday. Bye-bye.